Welcome back to Common Sense, where we have real conversations around money moves of successful Black entrepreneurs. From their financial wins, their setbacks, and everything in between, we just love hearing about their journeys and spread the knowledge so others can learn and be inspired. I'm here with Chris Thibodeaux. Very excited to have this guest. Chris is a family man. He's an author and just an overall go-getter. Chris, thank you so much for coming in.
Oh, man, I'm so excited to be here. Excited to be with you. Excited to talk about common sense. I love sense. I love common. I love common sense. So I'm excited to be here. No,
you didn't know Common's actually pulling up.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. Come on, put me in the video.
He's going to be drunk.
Let me dance in the background. No, this is great.
So awesome, Chris. The intro was obviously brief, but I feel like you can tell me so much more about yourself than we can. So who are you? Who's Chris Thibodeaux?
Yeah, so Chris Thibodeaux, last name Thibodeaux. So I was born in New Orleans. My parents got married at the ages of 15 and 16.
Wow.
We're married for 50 years until my dad went home to be with the Lord. Never divorced, never separated. Just like to throw that in there. But I was born in New Orleans, moved up to Minnesota the majority of my life, went to school here, high school here, graduated, went to Bible college for a year because my parents were pastors. I grew up as a PK, as they call it. And I just had a desire to give God a year. It was like a one-year program to do some mission work and things. And then I went to a historically Black college called Hampton University, majored in marketing. My first job out of college, I went into drug dealing. I was a drug dealer for about 21 years. So my kids hate when I say that, but yeah, I'm a retired drug dealer.
Too. Oh, okay.
No, but I went into the pharmaceutical sector, and this is before it was even popular. Like, I got in pharma, people were like, "What are you doing?" Literally, I called my dad, and he was like, "So tell me this job," because I had about 8 job offers coming out of school.
Yeah.
And I said, "I'm moving to Detroit, and I get a company vehicle," and he was like, "So you selling drugs out your car?" I was like, "Well, kind of."
And they're giving you the car.
Right, exactly. But I worked for Johnson & Johnson for 12 years. I lived in Michigan, New Jersey, D.C., Maryland, Baltimore area. After that, I moved, still with J&J, to Chicago. Then eventually I went to a company called UCB Pharma. They're based in Belgium. The U.S. offices are in Atlanta. I was managing at that point a team from North Dakota to Puerto Rico. After that, I went to a company called Upshur Smith, which is based here in Minneapolis, and I was vice president of sales and vice president of marketing in different stints for the time there. So a lot of times in sales, marketing, leadership, strategy, started off as a rep, moved up to training development, managing small teams, bigger teams, larger teams. And then about 8 years ago, I decided to leave that drug dealing world, and I launched a company called the Career Fitness Center. And the Career Fitness Center is based on the gap. What I saw, there was a gap in the market, and we can talk about that a little bit. But the gap that I saw in the market was that everybody didn't have access to coaching. You know, to get an executive coach, I cost, bro. I cost. It's not cheap. No, but to get an executive coach is not an easy thing. And even when I had hundreds of people that I was managing, I only had the budget for like one person to get a coach. And so therefore you have this gap in the marketplace, and people aren't getting the additional coaching they need. They're not getting the development they need. So the Career Fitness Center, I am like a personal trainer for your career. And the idea is,
the name, right?
Come on, hence the name. But that's what I do, is I really try to help teams, organizations, and individuals get themselves in shape so that they can be in position for the next thing they want to do in their career.
So, I mean, it sounds like you do and have done a lot. That's exciting. I'm glad. You know, what's funny about entrepreneurship, I just feel like a lot of individuals don't just wake up and, start the hair shop on day one, age 16, 17. It's usually they're in the working world. And I love that you've kind of used your past to find a gap, find a necessity that people just aren't doing well or efficiently. Like, I can do that better.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden start the business. So here's my question. Let's talk about the transition from the working world to the business. I mean, what was it like being a pharmaceutical rep for 20 years? Like, what was your path there? Did you exit because you felt like you were never going to be successful in that realm? Or did you exit because you were just sick of it?
Yeah, for me, so if you would have talked to me 15 years ago, I was going to be a CEO of a pharma company.
Okay.
Period. That was it. I was working my way up, manager, senior manager, director, senior director, vice president, senior vice president, right? And so as I got closer to that office, meaning, I'm getting closer to the CEO. I'm traveling with the CEO. I'm flying private with the CEO. I'm doing the big deals.
Oh, wow. So you was up there.
Yeah, I was like...
I haven't even met my CEO, so it sounds like you was a big deal.
Well, yeah, and then I started realizing, I don't think I want to do this, right, as I got closer. So the question I really had to ask myself, and something I would encourage your listeners to think about, is, what do you really want to do? So I'm gonna give you a little trick that I do in my one-on-one coaching, right? I would sit down with you and I would say, I'm gonna ask this question over and over again. What do you really want to do? And people say, oh, I'm gonna make money. I'm gonna take, oh yeah, but what do you want to do? But what do you really want to do? And I'll give you a quick story. There was a woman, she was a really successful physician, well known. She met with me one-on-one to do some coaching. And I was asking her, like, what do you really want to do? And she's like, well, I'm an OBGYN. I want to help women and health. And I said, what do you really want to do? And she kept saying the same answer. And probably the ninth one, I said, what do you really want to do? She's like, okay, Chris. Okay. Do you want me to tell you? Yeah, I want to bake cookies. I want to make my own whipped cream. I want to do such and such. And I still want to help people. That's what you want me to say? And I said, yes. I said, because now we're going to get at the core. And what we found out was we started to bridge a gap between what she was already doing in healthcare, but to kind of bring this Martha Stewart kind of blend in it. So now she's doing this thing where she is actually still doing the healthcare thing that she wants, but she makes the best cookies. She makes the best whipped cream. Like, she's that person, right, who always does all the decorations, but she's blending the two. And what I tell people is you have to look at yourself in the mirror and be honest with yourself and say, do I want to do this? And that's what happened to me. And I was like, and I loved it. I still love pharma sales, but I was like, I'm managing people, managing team, managing products. But the gap was, man, Io works for me and he's not on path to get what he wants. And I don't have the resources to get him there. So I really wanted to focus in on this. And I love talking in front of a group. Right. I love putting presentations together. And so, in 8 years, I look back and I've worked from the NFL to United Health Group to Ecolab. I mean, it's just General Mills, like these are major companies. But then there's individuals from Polaris or others who have worked inside large organizations and been a coach. And I'm doing the work I love. And that's the thing. I think you really have to look at yourself and go, am I doing what I love to do? But that doesn't mean you can just leave tomorrow and say, right, I'm going to quit and just do that.
Exactly. Well, I want to touch on a few things because you said a lot of nuggets there. I just want to let you keep going there. I guess my question is, I mean, it sounds like you had it made, right? You were on a path to success. You were doing really good things. You wanted to be a CEO. You were on planes with CEOs. I mean, the travel, the money, the living in different places, the comped meals. I guess that's the best part for
Come on
for
with
us.
the comped meals,
free,
right?
free food. I don't care how much money I make. I want some free food. What didn't you like about it though, right? Like what when you said I don't want to do this anymore, like obviously those things are perks, but what wasn't making you whole? What wasn't making it fulfilling?
Yeah, I think after I looked at, so in my job, one of the components, so let's say the last team I managed, I was managing a director, I was managing 12 managers, and then I was managing hundreds of reps, right? I was looking at it and saying, you know what I don't have? I don't have confidence that each person has a plan. So think about it. You spend almost more time at work than you do anywhere else.
Probably.
Right? It's your life source, it's your money source, and it's your thing that drains you.
Right.
So I was thinking, I looked at people and I was like, do you even know what you're doing? Like, do you have a plan? And so as long as I can remember my career for myself and others, I would get a gold star in this area from all of my managers. Like end of the year reviews, Chris, you do great planning. All your teams know what they're doing next. It's amazing how many people are getting promoted. And it just gave me life. So it wasn't so much that something was wrong. It was more that what was brighter in my life that was bringing me more attention. Yeah. So the light was drawing me. And what was drawing me was being able to sit down and talk to people and give back to people and help them get to where they wanted to go.
Okay, so let's talk about the transition now. Because obviously you were doing something you were very good at. It sounds like, well, let me not assume. Did you just walk out, say, peace, I'm gone, let me figure this out?
Right.
Were you doing it on was it a side hustle that turned into a main hustle, which turned into be like, what was your path?
Yeah, so as far as I can go back, I can remember friends or friends of friends, hey, can we have lunch? And this isn't an ego thing, right? I'm not like, I was the man, I knew everything. But, somebody might say, hey, I'm doing a presentation, you're good at presenting, can you come meet with me and help me? Yeah, I'm happy to. Hey, I'm having this situation with a coworker. And you got to remember, I'm in a lane of coaching and getting results, right? Always strategizing because it was sales, it was marketing. So what happened, I think the big light bulb is I came home one day and I told my wife, I'm going to be 400 pounds. And she said, what? I said, because everybody wants to take me to lunch and dinner to either thank me for the good, maybe tips I gave or to ask me information and say, oh, I want to treat you to dinner, which was cool, right? Free food. But I remember one guy I met, his kids and our kids went to the same school. And he said, hey, would you mind having breakfast? And I said, yeah. So we go to breakfast and he's like, I just want to get an opinion. I'm trying to get promoted. What do you think? And I was like, he was telling me what was going on. So I gave him some tips and here's what I think you should do at work and blah, blah, blah. So we go through it. maybe 3 months later, he calls me. He was like, not even 3 months, might be about 3 weeks. He calls me and he was like, hey, can I take you to lunch? I.e., 400 pounds.
Right.
So I'm like, yeah. And he goes, I'm going to tell you right up. He said, I did everything you said and it worked. I was like, really? He was like, yes. He said, guess what? I got the promotion. I said, man, he says 20% increase. And I already knew he was making good money out of it. I mean, he wasn't out. So I was like, 20% on top of.
I'm gonna need
right,
three.
right.
I'm gonna need 5.
Well, I was like, I'm going to get a steak. I'm getting this. Give me the chicken wings. You know, right? I want the RA.
Yeah.
But so then he says, he goes, hey, so anyway, and he takes out his checkbook and he's like, I'm going to write you a check. And I was like, no, I don't have a business, because I was still running sales and managing people. This was, like you said, my side hustle. But it wasn't even a hustle at this point. It was just something I like to do.
How did he find you? That's my question. Like, how did, like, obviously he reached out to you and he asked you, but like, what was it about you? Because my thing is, this wasn't a side hustle yet.
Nope.
It wasn't even incubating. But somebody said, hey, Chris, I feel like you know how to get me a promotion.
Yeah.
Like, what was it?
One, we followed each other on LinkedIn. He knew my career.
Yeah.
But I always tell people, the thing you do really well, you think everyone can do. Like he goes, hey, listen, he goes, every time I see you, you're always doing stuff great. I saw you do that one presentation at this thing. I saw you in this. I see you doing this. And so really what I tell people a lot of times is what you're putting out, you don't know if that's a thing. And I'm going to tell you a story about something on a football field in a minute. But what I realized what I was doing was he was just watching my life, right? And then if I would have gone to breakfast and it was dumb, I think he would have said, hey, man, well, thanks anyway, right? But I think when the moment comes and you have the opportunity to show your gift, and again, I wasn't there like, okay, I'm the best at this.
Right.
I honestly was giving him my thing. Now,
what you would do if you were in that position.
Exactly.
What's been working for
if you would have asked me to do your finances and your accounting, I'd be like, so carry the one. Hold on, but you count. Tell me what you think you got, right? You don't want me to do that, right? But if you want to do this leadership and impact and speaking in front of people and strategizing, I'm your man, right? And so, if he would have asked me the questions for something I wasn't good at doing, then I would have been stuck. But the conversations was in a lane where I have some information where I could pour into him, and so. Over time, that just kind of got my wheels going, and I eventually met with my CEO, and I said, what if I told you I was going to leave? He's like, close the door. What's wrong? You're not happy. And I was like, no.
He was getting ready to give you everything.
Yeah, he's like, what do you mean? And I told him, I said, I have this idea, and we'll talk about the Career Fitness Center in a minute, but I described what is now existing, and he just said, are you asking me, are you going to be successful? He goes, of course you are, because you're doing this kind of work for us.
Yeah.
And I think that's the thing, Io. It's like, if you're doing work already and you're successful, and I'm not telling anybody to quit their job today, because don't come knocking on my door, Chris. But
you're gonna get them right, though, right?
I'm gonna get them right, right? But really, if you look at it and go, "What am I doing? And can I do this well enough on my own? And how am I going to do that?" But I would realize, and in my position, at the end of the year, I had to hand in the number. So if I'm hitting this number, and this last particular job, I came in, we were. $1 million under.
This is the pharmaceutical company, correct?
So the last company where I was managing, I think I came into the role, let's just say the numbers were, roughly $1 million under.
Yeah.
Well, then the next year we make 10, then you do 35, then you do 75. And I was like, well, if I could grow their business, I can find the strategy, I can manage the situations, if I could take 10% of that and make it for myself, I'm doing great. Now, granted, I didn't have the product, I didn't have the people, I didn't have the resources, but the idea was I'm the battery in the toy, right? I'm the battery in the car. You take me out of this car's not moving. So if you're the battery and put yourself in another business, you might be able to get this thing up and running.
So I'm going to take a step back and dig a little deeper because I love that story. Obviously, after lunch, after dinner with that gentleman, it kind of clicked. He was ready to pay you. Yeah. And he was like, I wouldn't even. Okay, there's a couple zeros on there. All right.
Right.
At what point were you like, did you just wake up one day, like a week later, 3 a.m, like, damn, he was going to pay me for that?
Right.
That was kind of easy. If I do this 37 more times, I could match what I'm doing.
Yeah.
Like, what was that, like, click, eureka moment? Then on top of that, was it a master plan, or did you just start scattering, or was there, like, this is how I plan on scaling it?
So from that moment to launching the business was a good 8 months, maybe even 9.
Did you do more?
Yep, and I started doing. Yep, I started like letting a few people know, hey, if you ever need some help, I'm doing some coaching, really lightly. I didn't have business cards yet. I didn't, LLC or anything yet.
Was that tough to overcome and put yourself out there?
It was a little. What's really funny is again, like I said earlier, you think what you can do, everybody can do. So I would sit down with people like, I know you already know this. I know you already know how to do this.
Yes.
And people are like, no, I don't. Say that again. And I was like, huh, okay.
I deal with that a lot.
Right.
I deal with that a ton.
You know what I mean? So you get it, right? And so I just started to realize at that point, man, if I can put a plan in place. So I definitely put a strategic plan in place. I put in milestones of like, if I do this by this point, then I'd be in a closer range here. So I tell people, if this is your job, this is taking care of your life, right? And this is your idea, you can quit today and jump. It's just a long fall, right? And it's not bad. It's just the risk level is high.
Yeah.
But what I wanted to do was close that gap enough so that it could be here versus a cliff.
Right.
And so that's what I did over 7 months. I was able to get a couple clients. I was able to get my current company. They kind of sponsored me to get a couple of clients right out the door. So I used my resources. So when it came time to leave, my company knew.
Yeah.
They sent me off well. They helped me get a couple of clients, and then I had other clients lined up.
So you told your company you were leaving, and they were supportive.
I did.
Do you recommend that for a lot of people, or do you think some people would try to blackball you or blackmail you, or give you ridiculous numbers to hit, so that it's like it's either me or this, right?
Yeah. So I think that goes back to your relationship at work, right? If you're already in a job performance challenge, don't you say nothing. You go to work smiling, right? Smile and wave. Yeah. The second thing is if it's competing business, right? If you're doing something that's similar to what they're doing, don't even. But I also think if you tell people there's a plan, right? And if you show up at work the same way. And I didn't tell him I was leaving. I just told him, I said, I have an idea. I'm going to be working on this. And as I was working on it, I came back and said, hey, I'm getting closer to this. And he was like, okay. And then we put a plan in place to go from there. But I think people really need to look at their work, look at their relationships, and then really be realistic about, okay, I know the type of culture I'm in. They don't play this here. Then wait till the right time.
So before we get into more about the Career Fitness Center, I want to hear more about the transition story. So at what point were you like, okay, that 8 months I launched that business, I'm doing it on the side. I'm doing it from basically 6 to 10 p.m. and on weekends. Yeah. Then that 6 started turning to 5, maybe 4, maybe 3. At what point were you like, you know what, I got to make the jump? Because obviously at this point you have a wife and kids.
Yes.
So we talk about
two in private school.
Come private school, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So I mean that's no joke, especially considering school is free.
Yeah.
At what point were you like, okay, I'm either going to make this jump and we'll figure it out, or I'm making enough money to at least take care of our basic expenses, or hey, my wife is also working and she's kind of giving me the thumbs up green light. Baby, you good? I'll take care of the insurance, the basic bills, just do your thing.
Yeah. So a couple of things part of that plan. One, I looked at the severance I would get, right? Okay. I've kind of figured out how many more weeks, months I would have of money. I looked at my bonus that was going to come for the last quarter I worked, right? So my wife and I literally sat down and looked at the money, and we're like, okay, how much are we going to need to continue to exist? Yeah. And then how many clients do I need to do to kind of supplement?
I like that.
And I will be honest, the first client, I love you if you're out there. I'm looking at the camera. I love you. They were a hard client. Man, it was tough.
Do they know they were the first client?
I don't know. They knew they was one of the first clients.
Okay, I'm going to say.
So there's 2 of them.
They're probably watching now.
Right, there's
so
2 of them. But I love you. You know I love you. But they were tough. And when I mean tough, like every Wednesday I had to meet with the CEO. This is now my own company. Yeah. I had to do a presentation. I had to put a plan and da-da-da. And I didn't like it. But the dollars were helping to supplement almost what I was kind of making per month. Yeah. Kind of. So I had to do what I had to do. Right. And I think sometimes being an entrepreneur, it's not like you just don't walk out and get all the clients you want. Everything's perfect. Yeah. And I did that for like 2.5 years. Right. But the money was there to kind of supplement. And then there was a gap. Right. And so that was the hustle. Like I knew coming out, I have to go find this amount of business. Yeah. So sometimes I gave stuff away for free. The whole drug dealer mentality. I was giving them samples, Or let's do it.
Come on, Nino.
Come on, Nino. Let me change
Frank
it.
Lucas.
I was. I'll put it this way. I was doing Costco. When you walk by and you're like, "Want to taste it?" Yeah. Because like if I can get you eat off this toothpick, this chicken, I might get you, right? Yeah. But I was doing stuff for free. I've talked to groups of 3 people. I've talked to 100 people. But I was hustling. Right, because I had to close this gap. That fall was here. I needed to close that, and that's really what it took, man. Yeah. And you have to have a real conversation with your family and your life to go. It's going to be a little different, And I'm not bragging by any sense, but it was a nice check. Yeah, it was a very nice check, and I had worked hard to get to that check, but I also had to realize long term, over time, I knew it was my time because what was pulling me again to the light
Right.
was this skill set, this thing I really wanted to do.
I think that speaks on like maturity in life, right?
Mhm.
Like there's a point where income looks great, right? And I could do this for like this would be nice if I do this forever. But then when you sit and realize, I think there's two things. We talk about this with a lot of my clients. It's like, you know, $50,000 extra ain't gonna change your life.
Mm.
But the fact that you're making this same amount and doing a third of the work, or maybe doing work you like and appreciate, that is the American dream, essentially, right?
Yeah.
Pharmaceutical reps. I mean, I just know in medical sales in general, you guys are working.
Yeah.
You guys are flying everywhere. You're speaking to doctors that don't want to talk to you sometimes. You chase people around hospitals, city to city, 5 a.m., 3 a.m. Like, you know, you start hitting your 50s, 60s, 70s. Like, that's not going to be, you know, it's not sustainable.
Right.
So you had that conversation with yourself, like, what's something that, I'd like to do for the next 20, 30 years? But then on top of that, when do I exit? Because I'm not going to wait till they stop paying me here. I got to sometimes leave at or before your peak.
Yeah. Well, and you start to shift and start going, could I make this money up in a way that I enjoy it? Now, the other thing, for example, so I'll give you a little more background. So right when I was deciding to leave, I had 2 clients that I had kind of leveraged. Spoke with my wife.
Yeah.
My kids are in middle school and like maybe 6th grade, 7th grade and 6th grade, something like that.
Yeah.
My father was dying of cancer at the time. My wife had just overcome breast cancer. Like I'm talking like within a span of time, within 3 or 4 months. And then, and so not only was I like, okay, I got 2 deals, I'm leaving corporate America. My father was a pastor of a church, and at this point, I'd moved back to Minnesota.
Yeah.
And my dad, he was my hero, right? So as he was getting further and further along, I just didn't think he was going to pass. It just didn't really. I was like, that's just not going to happen. This is Dad, right? And
was that the first big death you had?
Yeah, I mean, I had many deaths, but like the real one that hit.
One, yeah.
And so when he got close to passing, he said, I want you to step in and take over the ministry. And it wasn't a foreign, like I wasn't like, what?
Wait, like take over his church?
Take over his church. And at that point, I had moved back. My wife and I had been, you know, serving in the ministry and volunteering and doing things. So it wasn't like, and I was ministering here and there if he couldn't speak.
It's not like you didn't know what a church was.
Yeah, right. It wasn't like I was just doing, you know, cooking ribs over here and all of a sudden like, what's a church, right? Yeah. So I was in, I got it. But all of a sudden I find myself in a situation where I have my own business. So I have just left corporate. I'm about to start my dream of this career fitness center business. And then now I'm pastoring a church.
Oh, wow.
And then I honestly thought for a minute, was I going to have to give up one for the other? And, you know, in my life, how I live my faith, if I was going to have to choose, I was going to choose Jesus. I was going to be like, okay, you got to have a plan somewhere.
Sounds good, though.
Right?
Sounds good. Right. In theory, it's like, oh, yeah, I'm going to choose God every time until you're in that position. You're like,
right. Is this really it? And man, I will tell you, looking back now over 8 years, people who are on the business side, they want the faith stuff. I mean, seriously, like I have 2 bios I send to every company that I speak to. And I always say, you can choose. One has, you know, just my corporate background information. The other one has my corporate background, my church information. I'm also one of the chaplains for the Timberwolves. So it has that kind of stuff. Every time I go and they're like, we're excited to have Pastor Chris here. And I'd be like, okay, Johnson & Johnson, if you don't mind saying that, I don't mind coming up to it. And what I found over these last 8 years, it's really been this balance, you know, and I love it because it gives me an entrepreneurial edge. But, you know, even stepping into the ministry, it's allowed me to still be Chris. Yeah. Right. And when people come to church, they laugh because, you know, they go, okay, you don't have a podium. You don't have like Bibles all in front of you. I'm like, I have a clicker and I have 2 big screens. I have my scriptures and all the stuff I'm going to talk about. But I'm doing it my way. And I think that's the point that I would just reference to people is you've got to find a way to do this job or do this entrepreneur. And I'm not saying everybody has to be an entrepreneur, right? But whatever you're going to do, you have to find an authentic way to do it. Because if you start acting, you're going to have to stay in character for the rest of the time you're doing this.
So, okay. So I played pro sports and then went into finance.
Okay, pro sports. You know, now tell the truth. How often do you slip that up? Can I have the wings? You know, I play pro sports.
You know what's funny? So I'm glad you asked that because this gets into the story. I ran away from it. I resented it.
What?
Yeah, I mean, everyone says, how do you get from football to finance? Football was the accident, right? Like I was a good football player, but I didn't think I was NFL good, right? Until they started calling and seeing me play. So the plan was always going to the finance world. But I always joked that, like, ever since I was a kid, I was always a bigger kid. But I was smart, and I wanted people to think I was smart. I didn't want to come off as a dumb jock. Like, to this day, Fun fact, these are fake glasses. I remember my first time I wore glasses was my 5th grade graduation. I took my grandmother's glasses. They were the thickest glasses I ever seen. I couldn't see nothing, but I'm like, glasses make you look smart. I used to watch the old Lois and Clark show.
Yeah.
He turned back into Clark Kent, put the glasses on.
Yeah.
So I always kind of had an inferiority complex with people knowing that I was an athlete because then they think I was stupid. And, you know, I think there's some science behind that, but we'll talk about that later. But when I got into business, I didn't want to be just another pro athlete, like trying something out and trying to use their clout to do it. Like, I want to let people know, like, not only am I qualified, I'm one of the top thought leaders in my field. So, like, I would just run away from it.
Yeah.
But then I'd show up in a room, 270 pounds in a suit. People are like, did you?
were you
a tennis player? Or
were you a
like
dancer?
Yeah. So, like, but I feel like when the ultimate freedom happened, when it was okay for me to finally break those walls down. So when I would coach football, I wouldn't let the kids see me in a suit. And when I would go into the office, I'd never talk about it, even though they can obviously Google me, but I'd never talk about it. So the hardest thing for me was to break that wall down. But it's honestly the best thing that ever happened in my career because it made me human. It made people like realize like I have a story, and even talking that story engages people and gets people like find familiar common ground. So my point in telling that is, was it hard for you to break that wall and not be two people at first?
Yeah.
And then on top of that, was there like a eureka moment when you finally just said, you know what? I'm Pastor Chris. What's up? What's going on?
Right.
Yeah.
No, I will tell you, it really was. And not because, even before I became a pastor and minister, I was, I wasn't one of these PKs that left the church and hated God. I was still in church. I was a phenomenal usher.
So you weren't a Tyler Perry movie?
No.
Okay.
I was a great usher at a mega church. Like 2, 4. How many you got? 4 people? Yeah. Come on. I was great, right? And so, but all of a sudden, when it really came time to this, I was just like, well, this is just who I am.
Yeah.
So even at work, I tell people like, yeah, I was a Christian and I was working hard, but they didn't hire me to be a minister inside this company. I was running sales, or I was the VP of marketing or whatever. So my idea when I was working in corporate America was let my life be the light. Yeah. Let me live a way where the people go, you never, I notice you don't get worked up, but, and my moment will come. But when this situation, I started to realize like, I've got to make a choice. So I thought at first, keep them separate, like church and state. And not because I was ashamed of one or the other. I just thought I was being respectful of the corporate world or business world or sports teams, wherever I was going to go speak.
Society says in certain places where you just don't talk about God, politics, or money, right?
Yeah,
so you just felt like,
they just should
I like this, but this is my thing. I do.
And like same thing. You can Google me. You can show up on Sunday. I'm going to be the dude up front and preaching, right? So it wasn't like I could really hide it.
Till somebody walking like, is that
right? Aren't you?
Hold
and
up,
it's funny. To this day, dude, I'll go somewhere and people will be like, do you preach too? And I'm like, yeah, I actually do. Right? Like, I saw you at this event,
man,
right?
I love that.
But I think the aha moment was for me was like, this is who God made me, right? And this gift is a gift that I want to use in multiple rooms and multiple spaces. Yeah. At church, our tagline is live your best life now. And my desire is to help people live their best life. My desire on the corporate side is let's get you what you really want in your career. Yeah. Let's get you to the next level. Let me give you some tips and some ideas and things that's going to help you. Hence the name of the book, Get Your Career in Shape, right? So I want to help you get your career in shape. If I go over here, I want to help you get your life, your relationships in straight, right? And get those in shape as well. And so the more I had to come comfortable with, okay, like I went to one to speak and somebody was like, Chris, it was amazing. It was a corporate setting. Somebody was like, Pastor Chris Thibodeaux. And I was like, and somebody turned around and said, are you a pastor? And in that moment, like, I was like, I am. Yeah. Right. And I was like, and there it is,
Boom. Elephant in the room.
Right. But I'll be honest, it took some time for me to get comfortable with it and realizing I wasn't pushing something on anyone. But you asked me to come in this room and all of this comes in this room. Right. This is just who I am. I don't put this on the shelf. I don't put this on the shelf. Now, I'm respectful of the audience and the time, but the way I do it and how I do it. Yeah. But other than that, this is me.
That's your brand. I love it. The career building pastor.
Yeah, right? There you go. There you go.
Not only going to save you, but he's going to save you some money.
Come on. Let's do that. Or make you some money. Right?
Hey, make you some money. Come on. Like, just let me know if you want to hire me. I do taglines all day. So let's get into Career Fitness Center. I want to talk more about that. So like, what is Career Fitness Center? How do you make it work? Yeah. What's your process? Like, just tell me a little bit more about the Career Fitness Center.
Yeah. So the idea behind the Career Fitness Center is like, so early on, Lifetime Fitness was one of my clients, right? And I went to speak to, I was basically all of their personal trainers in maybe 6 different gyms. Yeah. So I was doing this workshop on selling. It's a whole thing about the guilt of selling. A lot of people feel guilty when they sell their products. So anyway, I was doing this thing and I was talking with them, but I started to realize their desire to help people get in shape was really at the core of the business. And what I started to think about, I didn't have the wording right, because I actually named the company something else for the first 3 years. But why I changed the name to Career Fitness Center is because I was like, I want to actually help you get in shape. So let's take this example. We go to the gym right now, right? So you got your, your new Lululemon outfit on, your water with the dripping lemon at the top,
I'm a
your shoes
Nike
are
guy,
fresh.
but
Or come on, Nike.
I'm
okay.
with you. Like,
but you're looking fresh,
yeah.
right? You got your whole outfit on. You come down the steps and then you're like, what am I going to do? Right? And then you jump on this machine for 30 seconds and then I'm going to go over here and then you do this for 10 minutes and you go over and then you come back to those steps and walk up and you see somebody and like, how was your workout? It's great. Whew. But you don't even know what you did, right? And then what happens over time, people get frustrated. And what I saw at Lifetime is people wind up leaving the gym. Why? Because they're not getting results. It's not wrong with the gym. It's wrong with the use of the gym, how you're using the gym. And it's the same thing in life with careers. The people you start finding out is why you hate this company, why are you mad at your career? It's because they're not working out, right? They're showing up at work, they're sitting in their cubicle, and they're like, the president of the company's going to come find me and fly and knock on my door. Really? Right? And so what I try and do is say to people, let's get you in shape. So first thing I want to know is, do you want to be a marathon runner or do you want to be a bodybuilder? Because this same gym, same equipment, we're just going to use it differently. Are you trying to get a promotion? Are you trying to get like the best review at the end of the year? Are you trying to launch your business in a different way? Then let's get you in shape for that. You need platform skills. You need to work on your social skills. You need to work on your business analytics, like whatever it is. So then that sounds great, but that still costs a lot of money if I do it one-on-one.
Right.
And the other side is I hit a wall. I can only coach one person at a time. So if somebody wants me to coach them right now, I'm like, I can't. I'm in this one, right? So I had the idea to actually create the Career Fitness Center. So there is this digital platform alongside with you can come and attend a workshop or hire me to come to your company or do a team building kind of thing. But I wanted everyone to have accessibility. So imagine you have a Netflix account.
Somebody does, and I'm logged into it, but yeah.
Okay, we're not going to say
I just told on myself.
Right, he's not bootlegging. We'll take that back. But, okay, if you have Netflix, right? If you go inside Netflix, there is just all of this content. It's just there. It's just sitting there, right? It's like a library. But then if you've ever been in TikTok or Instagram, all these snippets of information, right? Short videos. So I had the idea, I'm going to create a bunch of content like Netflix and have it just sitting, but I'm going to cut it into snippets like small videos.
Okay.
3 to 4 or 5 minutes on, I hate my boss. How do I negotiate my raise? How do I get promoted? How do I show up better at work?
Interesting.
What do I do with a coworker, right? What do I do with a client who hates me? Like, so the same things I might do one-on-one, I made it into these videos.
Break it up.
And we're in a world, people are not going to watch 7 hours. But they might watch a 3-minute video on it.
And some days they might watch 7 hours, right? Like we have them days we'll be on Netflix for 48 hours.
Yeah, because if you want to binge watch, but my idea was I grew up in an era where you go take a workshop, you fly to New York for 3 days, and people are like, listen, if I can't swipe and get in a few minutes or hit a button and watch it. So I took that idea and then I took the idea of Lifetime Fitness membership and said, okay, people can have a bunch of content and then the next thing they can do is have snippets of videos and then I make it a membership. But now I want to make it accessible. So it's only $1 a day to be a member of the Career Fitness Center. Period. You go in right now and you can sign. And the reason I did that is so that if your company can't pay for you, right? If your boss like, we can't do it. Come on. You spend more. I tell people, if you spend more on your coffee than you do your career, I can tell you why your career is in the shape it is in. Come on. I'm not gonna say the name of that company, but it's about $8-9 for a cup of coffee. But because you got the latte and you got the squirt of this and you foam that, and
I'm a water in the morning guy.
I'm not a coffee.
Just because, like you said, it's $10. Like I'm cool. If anything, I'm gonna get the free coffee over at Firestone or something like that. Yeah.
Not even getting gas, just going to get the free coffee. But that was the idea, man. And so the Career Fitness Center is now an app. You can download it into your phone. You click on a button, and then inside we have courses. Yeah. And there's a course like Everyone Answers to Someone. Well, our number one video in there is My Boss is Crazy. It's the number one video in the entire system. My Boss is Crazy. But in 3 minutes, I help you understand, even if your boss is crazy, here's what you need to do. But then there's probably 5 or 6 other videos, same topics, but 3 or 4 minutes. But now all of a sudden you got a coach in your pocket, and we have testimonials of people saying, man, I was in this meeting, I went in my room, I turned on the video where you were talking about how to have an impactful presentation. I took 2 of those tips, I went right back in and used it. Right. And that's what I want, because if you get better at what you do, right? And people say, I use the word executive coach only because it's familiar, but I really want to be your personal trainer. And here's why. When you coach, sometimes the game has already started and I'm trying to do it from the sideline, right? But if I'm a trainer, I want to get you in shape for the things you want to do.
Game. Yeah.
Yeah. So
great analogy, by the way.
Yeah, we want to get you in shape so that when that promotion comes, when you launch this career, when you're getting ready to talk to your first big client about your business, you're like, okay, this is the one. We want you to be ready. We don't want you in there like, oh, I wasn't ready.
Yeah.
And miss your opportunity.
Interesting. No, I love that. So Career Fitness Center is not actually a center. It's an app. It's an online platform.
Yep. You go to Career
no brick and mortar.
No brick and mortar.
Okay.
It's so funny. I always laugh when people reach out to me like, I know you need some equipment. I'm like, I looked up your business. It's beautiful. It's one. I'm like, you didn't look nothing up. So it's Career Fitness Center. Right. And for all of your listeners, if they go out there today, CareerFitnessCenter.com, if you click on the top, we'll give you a 7-day free trial.
Okay.
Where you can go in and just look at all of the stuff and watch some videos. And the other thing I do twice a month, I come on live.
Yeah.
And we have like a webinar scenario where people can ask questions. We can talk about things. So it's kind of like you're not only getting this digital component, but you'll get a live interaction component as well.
So let's talk financials now, right? Being a money guy, I love that part. How do you generate revenue? Because my thing is, unless you got a million followers, which that's obviously the goal at some point.
Yeah.
That, I'm doing math quick too. That $30 a month, $31 a month, sometimes $28, $29 in the sleep year.
Finance, yeah.
That's probably not going to pay the bills, right? You know what I mean? It's a very nice suit, and that suit probably costs a little bit more than $30.
Right.
So is there different levels and avenues? Like, do you still do the consulting for big firms and big teams and CEOs? And then this is a way to kind of capture and grow your brand and be able to market to a larger group of folks?
Yeah, it's a little bit of both, right? Because, it's $1 a day, but if I can have 100 people, that's $100 a day. If I can do 100 people for 30 days, right, and $3,000, right, just all of a sudden it's like, well, if I can get 200 people, but I don't call it passive income because it takes a lot of, people say it's passive income. It's not passive because I got to do work to get that, because I got to always do the videos. I got to hire my team to make sure the stuff looks
Especially when I didn't see all the videos, like, what's up, what's going on?
Right. Now, what's next? I want the next one.
Yeah.
But what it does do, it gives you this ability to kind of have this ongoing, growing platform that people can keep coming back to. I wanted at $1 amount that people weren't going to be like, I'm not paying no $500 a month. That's what I want. But
I'm people, by the way. I'm like, look, that 5 is tight, man.
Right.
On,
but $30 or $1 a day, right? So, but in with that, I also work with, like you said, a lot of companies. I do a lot of workshops. So I won't say the company's name, but like next week, this company I'm going to speak with, they bought a package. So they bought everyone in their organization a membership. Let's say I think there's 6 months. So they
to the website or to you and workshops?
Well, both. So they got the Career Fitness Center for all their people, so like 100 people, right? So then they'll all get a membership. Then they all get my book called Get Your Career in Shape, right? So they all get a book. And then I will come in and do live sessions with this group once a month. So then I kind of sell or offer, if you will, this kind of package. So for me, it gives me both sides. It gives me the opportunity to go, man, I still have this platform. Anybody can access it. But then I have on this other side, it's like, hey, I can go in and do these workshops and work with teams and groups and kind of doing both. And one of the things we're doing now is just, we're starting a podcast called See You at the Top. Is one of my taglines. And so what we're doing now is just expanding what we do, but just like you, right? It's just like this thing. You want to get more people to know what you do so you can help more people.
Interesting. Okay, so let's talk. You keep saying a lot, and I'm so excited for this conversation because I met you probably about 1.5 years ago.
Yeah.
And I feel like every time we've met, we've talked about something different. As far as the business goes, like, what is your focus on at this moment? Is it more the Career Center as far as like the videos? Is it more getting companies to be involved? And then I'm gonna ask a second layer to that question. How do you figure out where you're focusing your energy? Because as a businessman, you're one person, right?
Yeah.
And you can't do all 9 things that you would like to do at once, but it's still part of your goal. Do we have like phase 1 is this, phase 2 is this, phase 3 is this? What phase are you in, and then what phases have you had already?
Yeah. So my first phase, I was just doing coaching.
Yeah.
I wasn't doing anything else. Phase 2 was I was doing coaching and then a talk here or there. Then phase 3 was, man, I need a platform or something. So that's when I started the Career Fitness Center, and then I wrote the book because for some people, as soon as I was an author, it gave me credibility. It was a phase, right? They're like, oh, you're an author? We want you to come on our podcast. We want you to do that. I was like, I'm
I'm
talking
gonna pause
the
you.
same.
Do you recommend people writing books if they feel like they're subject matter experts?
Oh yeah, and honestly, what it does, it gives a standing thing that somebody can go.
And then your presentations are probably based off the book.
Yeah,
correct?
there's a lot off of there, or at least I can reference that, and then but. This becomes stagnant. I love the book. You're gonna love the book. You got to get the book. You're gonna love the book.
Get the book.
No, but even that's done.
Yeah.
But those videos, they're constantly changing, right? The pandemic happened. I did videos about working from home and how do you negotiate with your company to still stay at home, right? But the phase we're in now, the really big phase I'm in right now is exposure, because I know that based on my branding and based on what I offer, if I can get in a room. If I can get you a live experience with me in some component, it's so much easier for me to convince you to become a member of the Career Fitness Center, help you buy my book. If I can get on your podcast and more people see it and they go, oh my gosh, this dude's trying to help me get my career in shape.
Right.
And then if you come and see that I can do it, I mean, it's one thing for me to talk about. If you come to a workshop and you're like, man, that was great. I just did this thing at another company and they were like, this is amazing. I'm really taking your tips. And I'm not saying it to blow my head up, but I'm saying it because if I was a baker and I'm baking cookies, it better be a good cookie.
Better be a good cookie.
Right? And so, again, when I can get people here, and right now, all I'm trying to do is get more people to see the product, see the credibility that we offer and what we've done and what I've done in my career, and then try and get more people the opportunity. And more importantly, when it shifts from me to you, when you're like, man, that helped me, then it's really working, because you're gonna go tell other people, man, you gotta check out his videos. You gotta have them come speak at your company.
I'm gonna come back to the money conversation because that's what I do, right? It sounds like you were able to generate revenue right away. It wasn't one of those business where there was a big sunk cost and took 2 years to overcome that. So, and mostly because you're providing a service that's stemming from intellectual knowledge. It's not like you had to build something, you had to buy raw materials, anything like that. Because my question to you is, what was the hardest part of like handling that money, right? Like you're going from a W-2 job where your taxes are taken out at the beginning of the year for the most part. Write-offs maybe, depending on your own real estate, to go into like, I'm seeing the gross in my wallet, in my pocket, right?
Right.
And now I got to be a grown-up and an adult and be like, nah, that's not all of mine. So I need to start siphoning out. And then, like, did you start hiring people on your team? Like, tell me more about that.
Yeah. So a couple of things that I did. One, I'm still learning, right? Because you go, oh, we should have done this last year. We could have written, done this and was able to write it off. But part of it really was when I started making some money with it, I started to realize I'm going to have to pay taxes. So a couple things to think about is how you set yourself up. If you're an S Corp versus an LLC, and you know this, an S Corp, all that money's going to come to you. If the
you just did it again. I don't know that. Don't assume.
Oh,
you just did it. Yeah.
Oh, I thought you. Well, I'll just.
I know a little something, but
and I'm not an expert on this. Get your own attorney or whoever. But the S Corp structure. So let's say the company makes $100,000, but if I only spend $10,000 to run the company, well, that $90,000 comes all to me. Like there's no other stop. So unless I get other write-offs or other reasons to show I had to spend some of that money, all of a sudden I'm going to be taxed at 90, or I'm going to be taxed at 300,000, whatever that number is. And so I had to learn to start writing some things off. The second thing I had to learn was like at the end of the year, I'm going to write a check back if I can't find a way to balance, this income. And over time I didn't hire any other employees, right? I hired vendors. And I did that because I didn't want the employee responsibility. Right.
You're responsible. But I mean, you have a family, so you didn't want to be responsible for feeding more mouths.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But I call them long-term vendors. Like my assistant, she lives in Orlando. She doesn't live near me. She's phenomenal, right? Well, after I hired her, I can't even imagine how I was doing it before that, because I was running the church, everything by myself with no assistant, right? I was the chairman on a board. I was on 2 other boards, and I was like, how was I even doing that? But it's amazing what you can do when you have to. I will say that. But over time, I started to think strategically about the money and how I'm using it and where it goes. And then now just getting better at, what do you write off? Yeah. What do you buy? Wait, the business could actually buy that. That's actually a business expense, right? And one of the first big things when I started traveling, I used to travel 3 days a week for at least 15 years in corporate America.
And it was just expense to put in the company car, but you didn't have to think about it.
Right.
Yeah.
But now all of a sudden I had to realize, like, you're doing the same thing. You're flying out to New York to do a talk. So your hotel and your car and all, this is the company. And I was like, what?
Because that's what your business, the Johnson & Johnson, was writing off all the expenses when you were traveling.
Yes.
But you were a full-time employee. But now you are Johnson & Johnson.
Exactly.
Right? Thibodeaux and Thibodeaux, if you will.
Come on. Right. And so, and I think it's those light bulb moments, start to happen. And I'm even now preparing for kind of what's next. Other thing you said was really important. To start my business, I didn't need to spend a lot of money, right? I got a website and kind of got started. When I built the Career Fitness Center, the system, that was very expensive.
That was a big overhead cost.
Yeah. Now, I will tell you, leveraging relationships paid off. Having a good reputation pays off. How you lead pays off. Because I was able to work with a company I worked with when I was inside one of those big companies, writing those big checks. And I called them and I was like, now, you remember I used to hire you all and do these big campaigns. And and I'm doing some of my own. The checkbook is different, right? But they really worked with me because at the time.
So they were a client of yours, or they helped fund? Okay.
Yeah, because they were the client that we used when we were launching all of our products. So I called their CEO and I told him what I was doing, and he was like, "Done deal. We'll figure this out."
Oh man, I love that.
Yeah, and
so
it still costs.
you must have kept really good relationships.
Well, that was my point, right?
And that's got to be the lesson. The lesson is, do not burn bridges.
No,
because I would have quit that job. Like, man, f y'all, I'm gone. Peace. Flipping over garbage cans.
Right. I'm out of here. Yeah. I'm taking all these.
Taking your boss to pay off. Like we knew it was fake.
Well, and that's the thing, because I wanted my reputation to matter, right? I wanted my reputation to, and I will tell you, as you get in your own business, it's your currency.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh yeah.
Because before I can go, if I sends into somebody else and go, no, Chris is great, you got to have him. It's currency. It's the first thing I'm doing to make some money. It's what you say about me and my business, my skill sets, what I'm offering.
So let's get vulnerable. What financially did you do wrong in those first couple of years? Or maybe are you still doing wrong that you had to learn? And what tips would you give for people that hey, don't do what I did? Yeah, the first thing is, remember that cliff jump when I talked about? I didn't think enough through leaving corporate. Yeah. Right? I mean, I was like, my 401k, well, I didn't have no 401k set up for me yet, right? But what am I going to do with this? And, and I could have thought through, hey, can you guys break this up? Don't give me all of the, because, you receive all these benefits that you have in your organization in 1 year. So it shot me up. So that year coming out, I was like, oh my gosh, now I got all this money. I could have pushed some of that into the second year. Some deferred comp, if you
will. Or there might have been a way to transition some of that into my business. So it could have gone for me, right? So I think that is one. I think two, get the help early in a way that's going to have the best impact. Like I wasted money, like hiring people, you're good at this, but I was stuck. Like, I need you, but you're not great. But now since I need you, I'm paying you, right?
Because you're better than nothing.
Versus let me just go get somebody who really does this for a living, who can really help me and do it really well. Do you know what I mean?
So you're talking about like friends and family? That were just
friends
doing
and family,
versus like a professional.
Let's
managing your calendar.
I'm trying to think of something because I don't want to call anybody out. Let's just say I needed somebody to make my handkerchiefs, right?
It's a fine handkerchief, by the way.
Thank you. Yeah, I could go to somebody who's like, I can sew. Can you sew? Yeah. What do you need? I got you. Man, bro, please. This is what I do, right? Or I could go to somebody who says, I have a company, we do this. And so instead of getting the hookup and I'm trying to hook you up and help you out, I needed to get some people who are like, no, I do this. I do this for a living. So we're not both learning together. I
feel like a lot of people struggle with that, right? The way you run your life is not the same way you run your business, right? Again, I'm notoriously cheap, right? If we pull into the parking lot, see a 2014 Honda Accord up there with no bumper because I got hit. I got an insurance check, put it in my investment account and did not. The car's fine. So I'm like, I don't need to fix it.
You're like, I'm good.
But it took me a little while, especially watching other business owners, that the last thing I'll do is be cheap with my overhead in my business. Yeah. Right? Yeah. I want to make sure the floor can withstand a rainfall. Yeah. It might be cheap now, but it's going to be very expensive later. I want to make sure that the staff that I'm hiring is very good at their job, well paid, well equipped to get better at their job. Yeah. Versus like, I have a friend in California who sells fitness equipment. And it got to a point where he was hiring his family members, like, look, $15 an hour, you can package these, send them off. But then people weren't doing it like they should. Yeah. Now he's got people on his payroll like, this is your job. Yeah. I will fire you if you don't do it. Right. Or, you get a raise if you do it well. And that excess, the excess and expenses does two things, I feel like. It gives you peace of mind, but also increases productivity, which increases the gap between revenue and expenses. Yeah. Which in turn, you making more money.
Well, and a couple of tips for people out there if you're starting an entrepreneurial thing. Here's a couple of things I did too. One, I bartered a lot. hey, I'll do some free coaching for you
Ooh,
if you can help me do this.
I like that.
I will come and do a workshop with you and your team or your leaders if you can do this for me, right? And so I wasn't spending money, I wasn't making money, but I wasn't losing money. So I was using the thing I had. So I did that often.
And really, I mean, in your business, the more you can get in front of people and put them on you, like, again, you've made money essentially, or you've grown your brand by putting this person on your, these are who I've worked with before, even if you're not getting paid for it.
Right, exactly.
So technically, I mean, that barter just went way longer and way farther.
I mean,
you're probably still benefiting to this day.
I've had personal trainers and gyms that I was like, listen, I can't do that right now. But what I can do is I will coach you on your business and help you get better if you become my personal trainer and help me get in shape.
I mean, that's number one in business, right? Solving people's problems, finding out what they need. And if you can provide that, you have a business. Not only do you have a business, you have a way to get free things from folks.
Yeah.
I like that.
And what I'm doing is I'm still progressing. So sometimes people are like, now, if you got a business where you need to buy a warehouse and you got to go to China and you got to get your product made, I'm not saying that's bad. That's a different animal.
Right.
But a lot of times I tell people, bake the cookies and sell them to 10 people, right? You know, before you go and spend it, I got to go get $1 million loan. Like, but what can you do right now?
Within your bounds.
Yeah, right now. And I tell people, like, I was coaching and I was telling people I was coaching. I was saying, hey, can I come speak at your event? No, it's free. I'll come and just do it. I was doing just like you said. The other thing is I was trying to get better at my craft, right? Yeah, I was always speaking on stages and doing stuff, but speaking on stage as Career Fitness Center and Chris Thibodeaux was different as a business owner than I work for this big company. My title puts me on these stages. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. But the barter piece, and then the other piece is, although everybody wasn't perfect, I did work with people to get going, right? And sometimes I'd be like, okay. I mean, I showed up to events where I'd hired somebody to, let's say, film me or whatever, and I'm like, okay, let's start putting it, because you don't have, let me go get a cord. I'll be, right? It wasn't perfect, but I had to do something to keep going. And sometimes people are waiting for everything to be perfect, and in entrepreneurism, it doesn't work that way.
Love that, man. Let's we're gonna wrap it up a little bit here, but my question to you is, what are you working on now? I see we got some books here. Yeah, we got some dumbbells. I love this. This is on brand. Career Fitness Center dumbbells.
Come on, man. Come on, and they're squishy, so you can get rid of that stress.
These are kind of weights I'm trying to lift. My trainer be trying to get me to lift the heavy ones. That's what I'm trying to lift.
But if you reach out, I may have.
What projects are you working on now? What are you excited about?
So there's the big thing is this podcast. I'll see at the top. That's one. 2, I'm really working on getting at a larger level from a speaker perspective. Like, you know, I don't know if that's going to be a speaker circuit, but I'm really looking for kind of an agent. Now, you didn't know this, and now you're going to be like, oh my God. But there was a time I used to do acting and modeling.
Boy style.
Right? Yeah. So true story. I tried out for Fresh Prince of Bel-Air as Carlton. True story. Yeah.
Hold up, but did they make you do the dance?
No, the dance didn't exist yet. The dance didn't exist. I give.
That's probably why Alfonso got the job, was because he did the little.
You know,
it's not
dude.
unusual.
I was from Minnesota. I was coming out of high school. They filmed me and milled. I mean, quote unquote, I made it to some waves. I
need to see your headshot. The little, you know, where you look.
Oh man, I used to have the box, and I was like, you know, I got my thing. But what
you should have told me that. I'm sorry. You should.
Oh yeah, I got some commercials and some movies and some other stuff. But the reason I say that is because what the agents did is they're fishing for you constantly, or if somebody's coming to them and saying, "Do you have a guy that looks like this?" And then they call me, and so right now, I've done really well on my connections and knowing people in LinkedIn. But now I'm even to the point now I'm looking to have somebody help me go that level and get exposed, right? I'm trying to be on the news and do that segment of, and now we're going to go to Chris Thibodeaux. Let's talk about getting your career in shape this month. So Chris, what tips do you have? Well, welcome. I'm so happy to be here today, right?
Hey, you just got like the Richard Simmons outfit.
Come on, let's go, right?
But you're talking, come on, hire me.
I got you, right? But it's really trying to get more people to see. And I think that's honestly for most people is if you have a good product, part of the challenge is getting the right people to see the product, taste the product, experience the product. So those are 2 of the things. And then there's some stuff I can't talk about yet on camera that, you know, just keep your eyes on me, follow me, stay connected. And the other thing I love doing, man, as soon as I get it, I give it. Yeah. So as soon as I get a hookup, I'm like, I'm speaking at this. I got 10 tickets. If everybody wants to come, hit me up online. I'm giving this out. So, man, it's really, really fun. And I'm excited about what's next, this next phase of my life.
I'm excited for you too, man. And like I said, you've done so much already. And just hearing, I love hearing entrepreneurs' plans. And growing up, I'm in a business where I'm nosy naturally. Like I'm the neighbor with the thing down. But I get to be nosy and get paid to be nosy for a living. So it's really cool hearing people's thoughts, their ideas, how they're able to generate revenue, money, their stories, and then where they plan on taking it off to. So congratulations on all that. Before we close, how do people find you? Social media handles, websites?
Yeah, I think they're going to list them all on the screen.
Next?
Yeah, on the screen. I think you can see them. But I am Chris Tibbs. You can reach me there on Instagram. If you go to Chris Thibodeaux on LinkedIn, there's not that many of us, especially that look like me. You'll see me. Or the Career Fitness Center on any of those channels, Instagram, TikTok. But if you go to Career Fitness Center,
you're not on TikTok.
Yeah,
doing the stop,
Hey,
that's you.
No, what we're finding though is really trying to help people, and I'm no hate on anyone, but when I see people who've had one job and they've got this much experience and they're coaching people, and great for you. I know I have the experience, and so I know, because even in this book, I tell the story about when I almost got fired, right? And how I was like, my name is Chris Thibodeaux. I'm like a performer. Yeah. But I would tell you specifically where the gap happened, right? And why I was on a performance improvement plan, because my boss and I couldn't see eye to eye. I feel like I have some experience. And so what I'm trying to do is get to a broader audience to let people know, like, hey, man, if you're about to get your first job, ask for this, do this. You're about to get your first promotion, do this. You're getting your entrepreneur thing going, do this. I'm just an open book and trying to help people get to the top.
Awesome. Where can we find the book?
Yeah, you can go to Amazon.
A copy. I want to find one.
Yeah, you go to Amazon and just type in Career Fitness, or actually type in Get Your Career in Shape.
Okay.
You'll see me there, and hopefully find me at a live event, and then I'll come and sign that for you as well.
Awesome. Chris, thank you so much for coming in. This episode of Common Sense is officially over, guys. Please remember to like, share, and subscribe on Macaulay Media, and we will see you guys next time.
Love it. It's great.
It's all good. That was great, man.